Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms World of Warships, and today's video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new leaked British cruisers that will be coming in World of Warships at a later date at Gamescom 2016. These British cruisers were announced by Wargaming. This is the picture that has shown up on various forum posts on the World of Warships website. Apparently this picture was leaked on the Asia server forums page, and it details the upcoming 1 through 10 tier British cruisers. I am just as excited as I'm sure many of you guys are that are watching this video. The Royal Navy has been surprisingly absent from World of Warships since its release, save for this Tier 6 battleship, the Warspite of the Queen Elizabeth class, which is the replay that we'll be playing in the background. And I am divisioned up with my buddy Puddin. He's in his Arizona. We're playing standard battle on Neighbors. But again, that is not the point of the video. The point of the video is the British cruisers. And just taking a look at all the pictures, doing some research, just kind of getting the information and statistics that I need for this video. Again, I just want to reiterate here, that this video is a speculation one. Much like the German battleships video that we did last month, a long time before the German battleships came out. This is all pure speculation. Obviously, the statistics that I give you come from valid sources on the internet in terms of the ships that did exist, but a couple of the ships at the end tier, the tier 9 and 10, with the Neptune and the Minotaur, apparently those are paper ships, so just letting that out there. But yes, this is a speculation video. I'm just going to talk about how these ships might be implemented into the game. And again, I'm as excited as you guys are. The Royal Navy finally making an appearance somewhere on the World of Warships website. So, let us begin. Taking a look at the Tier 1, this is the Black Swan of the Black Swan class of sloops. Sloops were used during World War II as kind of a smaller escort vessel, similar to frigates and corvettes that were used to defend the convoy lanes in the Atlantic and the Mediterranean in World War II against German U-boat attack. And the Black Swan will be the Tier 1 British cruiser. What do you need to know about the Black Swan? Well, it actually has a really interesting history. There was a commander, Captain Frederick John Walker, a very, very successful skipper in his ship, the Starling, the HMS Starling, that is, and he took part in the sinking of 11 U-boats, so a little interesting history. The ship is armed with 6 4-inch guns, has a decent suite of AA. Obviously, at Tier 1, you don't have to worry about anti-aircraft. These ships were fitted with up to 110 depth charges. However, there are no submarines in World of Warships, so this will be a nice little introduction. I'm sure it'll be very similar to all the other Tier 1 ships. A nice fire rate on its guns. And that's really about it. It's Tier 1, not much to see there. At Tier 2, we have the Town class cruiser, and it's the HMS Weymouth. That is the cruiser that is represented at Tier 2. Now, the Town class cruiser, there were 2 different variants. This is the Town class cruiser, the group of them, 21 of them, built for the Royal Navy and the Royal Australian Navy, and they were in commission from 1910 to 1949. They served through both World Wars, and these were the 1910 versions. But the one we're looking at specifically is the Weymouth class. This was a modified design that had a heavier armament of 8 6-inch guns. And this is where the British cruisers will pretty much be for the entire line. 6-inch guns. They're all going to be designated as light cruisers. Even the Tier 9 and 10, those paper ships, light cruisers, because in the 1920s, the Washington Naval Treaty stipulated that any cruiser armed with 6-inch guns or less will be designated a light cruiser, regardless of the ship's weight, which can be up to 10,000 tons. Heavy cruisers have up to 8-inch guns. So again, all of the British cruisers here, starting at Tier 2, will be armed with 6-inch guns going all the way up on the line. And that's exceptionally unique here in World of Warships. There is not a single, I guess, light cruiser line out there, but the British cruisers will all be under that designation. But anyway, the Weymouth class, HMS Weymouth in particular, again, 8 6-inch guns, speed of about 25 knots. Pretty standard for a World War I design, to be honest with you. Later in the war, they were equipped with a few AA guns of 76 millimeters in caliber. And it was also the Weymouth class, one of its ships, the HMS Yarmouth, was the first light cruiser to be able to operate aircraft fitted with a Sopwith pup, so that's very interesting. But yeah, it's a Tier 2 cruiser. Again, the skill cap's going to be very low. Pretty much just load high explosive, shoot. I'm sure it'll have a pretty decent fire rate due to it only being 6 inches. So, again, not too much to see there. At Tier 3, we have the Caledon of the C class, a group of 28 light cruisers built for the Royal Navy. They were in service from 1914 all the way up to 2011, as a matter of fact. 28 were completed and 7 were lost during the war, and there were 7 subclasses. And the subclass that we're going to be looking at is the Caledon subclass. They were all ordered in December of 1915 and commissioned in 1917. The overview of this is they only have 5 of the BL 6-inch guns, 152 millimeters. Let's see, Mark 12 guns, yes. They have a couple secondaries, 3-inch and 2-pounder guns, and they have 8 533 millimeter or 21-inch torpedo tubes and a 4x2 arrangement with 2 quad torpedo launchers. Armor on the ship is 3 inches on the machinery spaces at most, so the Citadel in World of Warships. And to be honest, this thing, it's a light cruiser. What do you expect? Honestly, it's going to get Citadel pretty easily. I see this thing just not being very, it's going to be very brittle, I should say, because I can't figure out what word I want to say. Sorry about that. It only has 5 guns, however, so it is a step down from the previous Tier 2, so I'm going to guess that they might give it a little bit better rate of fire to deal with. But, yeah, it'll be very similar to the Tier 2. But it does have torpedoes, so that'll be very interesting. I'm not sure how the torpedoes will be on the ship, but just having torpedoes will give it, obviously, a greater degree of flexibility at short ranges. Taking a look now at the Tier 4, the Danae, or the D class, were a class of light cruisers built for the Royal Navy at the end of World War I, and they also saw service during the Second World War. They were in commission from 1918 to 1946. 8 were completed out of a total of 12 planned, and 3 were lost during the wars. So, what do you need to know about the Danae here at Tier 4? Well, the armament now goes from 5 to 6 of the Mark 12 6-inch guns on single mounts, mounted all the way through the center line of the ship. It still retains the 3-inch and the 2-pounder secondaries, except this time it has 4 triple tubes of the 21-inch 533 millimeter torpedoes. Unfortunately, the armor takes even a bigger step back. It is 3 inches amidships along the center part of the ship, but the main belt, however, is only, let's see here, 1.5 to 2.25 inches thick. So, again, this thing is going to be extremely squishy, and, again, it's a light cruiser. That's what we've come to expect. This thing is slightly longer and weighs slightly more than the previous Caledon at Tier 3, but that torpedo armament seems to be something that'll be significant. Instead of the 4x2, 4x3. So we have 12 torpedoes on this thing. The reload on the torpedoes will probably be a little less. And also, since that it is at Tier 4, I'm guessing that they might give it some sort of a historical hull to be able to compete in those Tier 5 and 6 games when they're coming under attack from enemy carriers that would certainly outclass them, at least in terms of just being able to get their airplanes in. The AA mounts on this ship, very, very few and far between. So again, I really think that they'll have something like that included on this ship. But again, you can kind of lump it in with the Tiers 2 and 3. They seem rather unexceptional. Pretty much HE spammer galore. I doubt that the armor piercing will be very good on these ships just because of the very low caliber of the guns, and I'm sure that the shell velocity, considering these are World War I designs, will not be very good, to say the least. Continuing on, Tier 5, we have the Emerald class cruiser, or the E-class. A class of 2 light cruisers built for the Royal Navy. Here at Tier 5, it will be the Emerald. And these new ships were ordered in March of 1918 toward the end of World War I. However, they were in commission starting in 1926, and they served all the way throughout the Second World War and were decommissioned in 1948. 2 were completed, as I mentioned, and both were retired. So what do you need to know about the Emerald here at Tier 5? Well, it once again increases the armament by a factor of 1. You now have 7 of the, again, Mark 12 6-inch guns of 152 millimeters in single mounts along the center line of the ship. However, you finally start to get some better anti-aircraft armaments. Taking a look here, it appears that a lot of the secondaries will be dual-purpose guns. You have 3 single QF 4-inch anti-aircraft guns. You have 2 of the 2-pounder pom-poms. There are 9 smaller guns, machine gun caliber rounds. And then you have 4 quad tubes of 21-inch torpedoes of the Mark 9s. 4 quad tubes. That is an insane amount of torpedoes. This thing at Tier 5 is going to be able to launch a broadside of torpedoes that is just, quite frankly, unparalleled. It doesn't even come close for any of the other ships at Tier 5. So this thing is going to be a ship that if you get, if you let it get in close to you, it's going to be absolutely just a huge pain. And it's going to be able to nuke battleships, full health battleships, that is, at point-blank range. The armor, however, is still very much the same, 3 inches or 76 millimeters amidships, and it tapers down, obviously, as you go towards the bow and the stern, down to 51 millimeters at the stern, 38 millimeters at the bow, and the deck is only 1 inch, so this thing is going to be exceptionally susceptible to plunging fire at range, and even at medium ranges as well. However, it is able to mount a catapult as well, so this will be the first British cruiser, I'm going to guess, that will have access to the scout plane or a fighter plane. So how do I think it'll play? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the torpedo tube's 4 quad launchers is insane. This thing will be deadly up close. I'm sure since the guns, you get an extra one, you now have 7. I'm sure the reload will be very similar to the preceding Tier 3 and Tier 4, maybe a little bit buffed, I don't know. It seems to me like this cruiser is a bit outclassed when you consider the other Tier 5s. The Königsberg has 9 of those high-velocity shells. The Tier 5 Kirov has 180 millimeter guns, so this is still kind of World War I armament that you'll have on these light cruisers, and I don't really know if it'll be very good. Who knows? We'll see. Tier 6, we have the Leander. 8 light cruisers built for the Royal Navy, and 3 of them, the second group that were built, were sold to the Royal Australian Navy before World War II, and we have the Leander. So what do you need to know about these ships? Well, they have an armament of 8 6-inch guns. We continue to add one more gun, it seems like, as we go up in the tiers. A pretty decent anti-aircraft suite, about 16 4-inch and 0.5-inch guns, and 8 2x4 arrangement of 533 millimeter or 21-inch torpedo tubes. The armor is still the same, 3 inches around the magazines and along the citadel. So what do we need to know about the Leander? Well, it finally moves to turrets. We have twin turrets, 2 in the front and 2 in the rear. So we finally get away from that single casement mounting kind of deal that you had all the way up through Tier 5. We finally get some turrets on these bad boys, and you get 8 of them. So again, I'm sure the reload will be very healthy considering it's only 152 millimeters. The torpedo armament does go quite a bit down from the Tier 5, but still having 8 torpedoes, 2 quad launchers will be very good nonetheless. And again, I'm just kind of beating a dead horse here. These cruisers kind of seem just very bland considering they all have this 6 inches of caliber, and it will be more or less on the upgrades to the torpedoes and the anti-aircraft that will make these things more deadly. I have a feeling that these cruisers will be very good, however, with their high explosive qualities, and they'll probably be, I'd say, pretty good harassers. Certainly not like the Soviet cruisers that can fire out to insane ranges, but they certainly will have better torpedoes, at least to make the cruiser more viable. That's what I'm guessing. But I think the Leander here at Tier 6, compared to the other Tier 6 cruisers, will be all right. Nothing's exceptional, nothing special, but I think they'll be okay. At Tier 7, we have the Crown Colony class cruiser, the HMS Fiji. That is the ship that is represented here at Tier 7. And they're also the first 8 that were built were known as the Fiji class. 11 were completed and 2 were lost during the war, in World War II. Taking a look here at the statistics of the ship, you have 12 6-inch guns in 4 triple mountings, 2 in the front and 2 in the rear. So now this thing has the same armament as something like a Shores at Tier 7. It has a much, much better AA suite, and some of these light cruisers the British used during World War II, especially the Crown Colony, were sometimes referred to as AA cruisers, so I'm sure these things will have very good AA mountings. They have 8 4-inch and 8 2-pounder, including more pom-poms, and 2 triple 21-inch torpedo tubes. So again, coming from Tier 6, the torpedo armament goes down, however the AA goes up even more, and now having 12 of these 152 millimeters, you finally start to get into some really good firepower potential, at least for spamming high explosive shells. I really do think that the armament having the 12 guns will really be a significant upgrade, because I'm sure that the reload will be very similar to all the other previous British cruisers, and it will make them very good fire starters, as I've already mentioned. And due to the better AA, I think these things will come second only to the American cruisers in terms of their anti-aircraft capabilities and being able to be a good fleet escort. And I think that's what these British cruisers here at the higher tiers will be. Continuing on to Tier 8, we have the Town Class Cruiser, the 1936 versions, and it's the Edinburg subclass, respectively. These ships were designed in the mid-1930s, 10 were completed, and 4 were lost during the Second World War. Taking a look here, however, at the Edinburg subclass, it also has 12 of the 6-inch guns in a 4x3 arrangement. However, the AA takes a massive step up. 12 4-inch guns, 16 of those 2-pounder 40mm pom-poms, and 8 12.7mm or 0.5-inch machine guns, and you get 6 21-inch or 533mm torpedo tubes. So these ships will have a significantly enhanced AA upgrade, even over the what looks like pretty good Tier 7 Fiji's AA suite, and these things will be exceptionally good fleet escorts here, I think, at Tier 8. And having those 6-inch guns that will be firing really fast, I think the ships will perform even better than the Fiji's, just again, at medium to long range, shooting high explosive, and being very good at the fleet escort capabilities. So, very similar to the Fiji, just much better enhanced AA. Unfortunately, the armor on this ship is pretty poor. That's just something, again, that it's a light cruiser, so they just really don't have good armor, and I know that sounds pretty obvious, but it just really doesn't seem anything exceptional here. I don't have the exact armor figures, I can't find it, but I'm sure that it's pretty poor. Now, as for the Tier 9 and 10, I'm not exactly sure what classes these are. There is a Minotaur class light cruiser that was built for the Royal Navy starting in 1943, and the ships were commissioned into 1944. However, there is an article that I found about a Tiger class cruiser. They were the last class of all gun cruisers completed for the Royal Navy, in commission from 1959 to 1979. However, it says here, much larger Neptune and Minotaur class 15,000-ton light cruisers were ordered in 1944 and 1955 respectively. So I'm guessing that those paper designs that I cannot find anywhere will represent the Tier 9 and 10, the Neptune and the Minotaur. As far as I'm concerned, they will still continue with the fantastic upgrading of the AA, and they will have the 12 6-inch gun arrangement. I'm not 100% sure. I was looking around at other websites, and I just could not find any blueprints for these ships, but I have a feeling that they will continue to further increase the capabilities of the Fiji and the Edinburg, and I think that they will culminate with having some just absolutely asinine AA for their tiers, 9 and 10 respectively. So overall, that's the British light cruisers. Because of the caliber of the guns staying at 6 inches, these ships will be just really, really similar in terms of their guns. But the AA will significantly get upgraded as you go up the tiers. The torpedo armament will change from tier to tier. The armor will be really poor. So overall, I think these things will be very similar to the Soviet mid-tier cruisers, 6 through 8, except they'll have better AA and they'll have better torpedoes. That's what it seems like to me at the expense of armor. So take it with you will. If you guys have any information on those Tier 9 and Tier 10 cruisers, please let me know if you find anything anywhere. Leave it in the comment section below. Include a link so I can take a look at it. Overall, right there are the British light cruisers that just have been announced. I'm really, really excited. Again, I'm not sure exactly when they will be available, but there you have it. So we shall see what comes of that. Sneaky Snake here for Brothers in Arms World of Warships. Thank you guys for watching this video. Again, please leave a like, please subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thank you guys for your continued support, and I hope you enjoyed the game as well in my Warspite. Have a great day.